Today we have a very special study from our in-house genius, Jacob. You ask and you shall receive, and you shall receive even more than what you ask for.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your helmets on. This is how the sausage is made, where the ingredients came from the sausage.
And it is a deep dive into...
And what the animals ate. Because I don't even know.
We asked Jacob, we asked for a piece on selling selling SPX put spreads at the expected move, and this is a doozy. Let's jump right in, Liz.
Let's jump in. Okay, so 0 DTE, out of the money. OTM is out of the money put spreads. And this is springboarding off last week's. We did a study on at the money put spreads. So this is out of the money, meaning we're going to shift them over a little bit.
We're going to read the study setup first, and then you have to put your helmet on.
Then you put your helmet on.
All right, 0 DTE options offer fast results and highly liquid markets, an appealing combination for active short-term premium trades of all kinds.
And last week we explored various mechanics around selling ATM put spreads, but many traders prefer staying out of the money.
This means accepting a smaller initial credit in exchange for a higher win rate and more room for the market to move against us. But how far out should we go? And that's what we are looking for, testing these put spreads, going further out of the money. You ask?
You ask and you shall receive. At Tasty, we often use the expected move as a reference point when placing trades. But for same-day moves, there are meaningfully different ways to calculate it.
Okay.
I was told there'd be no math today, but there is.
Hey, bust out your calculators. The VIX and VIX 1D provide one family of estimates. So here we have expected move equals spot price times vol index over 100 over the square root of 365. You've got the equation right here. Take a snapshot of it. If you want to do the math, here's the equation for the expected move from the VIX and the VIX 1D.
Yes. Okay, both are calibrated to a full 24-hour period and use a mix of expirations for computing IV. By market open, though, the VIX 1D is already largely composed of 1 DTE options rather than true 0 DTEs.
So think about that. If it's the VIX 1D is largely composed of the 1 DTE options, that's going to have a greater expected move because there's extra time. It's tomorrow. They're not pricing Wednesday's options. They're pricing Thursday's options.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah,
and you're looking at such a large index like the SPX.
Okay, because of this, using a fraction of the index-derived expected moves is natural when placing 0 DTE trades.
Okay. In IVX, a blending of a straddle. This is the old trader trick. This is how we used to get expected move before you kids had everything these days. A blended of straddle and a near out of the money strangles derives exclusively from 0 DTE option prices and thus reflects the same session expectation from start. So that is straddle plus strangle divided by 0.85.
Or
0.85, wasn't it?
Straddle plus strangle divided by
2.
But times 0.85.
Times 0.85.
Right. I think that was it. Straddle plus strangle divided by 2 times 0.85.
Well,
something like that.
It's all on the platform for us now. That's the one thing why we used to have to do this on the trading floor to see what the expected move is for the cycle. But now it's all there.
And that's IVX, so that should be close to what we see on the brown bar.
Correct.
All right, today let's see how put spreads placed at different distances out of the money, anchored to each of these expected move frameworks, have performed. So now we're getting into the study. Using 3 years of data in 0 DTE SPX options collected every 10 minutes.
That's usually our study. We consider the results from selling one $20 wide put spread every day at 9 a.m., give or take 5 minutes.
Experimented with short strikes at different multiples of the different expected moves, or at the money as a baseline.
Which at the money we did last week, but he was different widths. Now we're sticking with just $20 wides.
Yes.
Explored closing positions at a range of profit targets from 10 to 50, and other trades were allowed to expire.
Examine the total number of winning trades, the total profits or losses, and the maximum drawdown. The largest amount someone could have lost following these mechanics every day by starting at an unlucky time. So when you see that drawdown, that's not from one trade. That's if you had multiple losses in a row.
And I'm going to, because these are kind of springboarding off one another, and you'll notice there are some consistencies in here, I want to address that real quick. Because somebody had asked that the maximum drawdown is literally an unlucky time. These are defined risks. So if it's $20 wide, and you're taking in 7, you know the most you can lose in one is $1,300. We all know that. This is a string of losses at an unlucky time.
Right, and we can can talk about that when we show the risk on these trades. Okay. All trades were assumed to exercise at mid-price. All times are Chicago time.
Chicago is Central Standard Time. That's another comment we kept getting. So what is Chicago time? Central Standard Time.
Central time. It's a lovely city. Come visit. Now it's time for you putting on your helmets.
Wait, do you want to go to the takeaways first?
That might be easier. I'm going to bypass slides 4, 5, and 6 and read the takeaways.
We're going to go backwards.
I think this will be helpful. I think that's a great idea, Liz.
So
this will be very helpful. Takeaways. Initial strike selection is one of the most powerful times for an option trader to determine the characteristics of their trading outcomes.
True. And despite the persistent bull market, out-of-the-money put sellers have been able to largely keep pace with at-the-money traders thanks to more consistent winners.
Further out-of-the-money strikes gave up some profits, but further insulated traders from the dangers of consecutive losers.
True. Okay. And the best performing profit target strikes were slightly higher, meaning we were looking at 50% range. If you take smaller credits, because you're farther out of the way, if you take in smaller credits, you have to try to keep a larger part of them. That's the common sense slide.
Okay. The exact particulars of which out-of-the-money strikes to use was not especially significant. So I think that's the important thing here, what we want everyone to remember. When we're looking at all these different parameters of sell it here or sell it here or sell it here, the exact particulars of which out-of-the-money strikes to use was not especially significant, though a full VIX 1D expected move is likely too far. Starting from the IVX expected move and adjusting up or down to taste is fine with the approach. So you're going to look at these, and they're all winners. There are no losers.
That's a good point. They are all winners. And for those of you math geniuses out there, because we know you know who you are, and a lot of people want this, especially derivatives. There's a reason Jacob has been with us for years and years and years, because he's a math genius, and people want the numbers behind this. So now we're going to give them to you.
Okay, so we're comparing the same thing on every slide, just different profit targets. So here we're looking at the money short strikes, half VIX 1D expected move, VIX 1D expected move, half VIX expected move, VIX expected move, and IVX expected move. We're looking at all of these here, taking a profit target of 10%. The next slide will be 25% profit target, and the next slide 50% profit target.
Yes, and so and I'm glad you brought that up. All of these were winners, meaning that over time, your losers are part of this calculation. So it's over 3 years of data if you did it every day, right? So if you consistently did the half VIX 1D expected move and you did your little calculations, you get out your pen and paper and you do it every single day. What they're saying is, and I'm just looking at the half VIX, you're getting $41. That's average net P&L with your losers, because I wanted to address this. So you're not risking $7,331 to make 41. That is your maximum drawdown, and the average P&L per trade are two totally different things. There was one thing that somebody got lost in the weeds with last video.
So that max drawdown, Liz touched on this earlier. That's if you have consecutive losers in a row. So if you're selling a $20 wide spread, you said for $7, and that would be closer to the at the money, because that's a
that was the at the money. That was the at the monies. $7 was the at the monies.
I did at the expected move today. I did at the expected move at 9 o'clock, $20 wide. I got $390. So $390, say $400 on a $20 wide, meaning my risk is $1,600. If you go to the IVX expected, which Jacob said the IVX expected is close to the actual move.
Pop in the platform and show them what we're talking about. This is how we use the expected move. So SPX 0 DTE.
I just went to the expected move, and at 9 a.m. it was lower. Market might have been different.
No, the expected move was larger, but the strikes were lower.
Right. I mean, SPOOs were probably not too far from here, but I think I was down at the 50 level because it was 9 a.m., not 10 a.m. And
I still have it in. It was the 6550, 6535. That was the strikes at 9 a.m.
Now here you've got at 10 a.m. the $20 wide at the expected move. You're getting about 330. So when we're talking about that conditional value at risk, you can see this trade has a max loss of 1,600. So how are they saying that at this IV expected move, the max drawdown is 7,800? That's starting at the most unlucky time, you would have, 4 losers in a row, and that's how you would get to that number there.
Don't get me wrong, bitter pill to swallow. I get it. Like if you're starting at the unlucky time and you come in being like, whoa, but what we're trying to say is that $47, and I'm just going with that last column now, that $47 nets out all your winners and all your losers for 3 years.
Right. So One thing I just want to mention, if people think this is confusing, half VIX 1D, VIX 1D.
Hey, it confused me.
Half VIX expected, IVX expected. It confused me too. We asked Jacob to compare various put spreads at the expected move. I assumed Jacob was just going to pull up the platform and look at where the brown bar ended and take that strike. I didn't mean for him to calculate all these variations of expected move.
But you know what? You ask and you shall receive, Jenny Andrews, so I'm glad. But let's talk about what we do. If you look up there, so take that top line, March 25th, 2026. You go all the way across and you can see that up or down, $31.05. That is what the implied volatility of the VIX is saying that the expected move left for the day is.
Right. For the day.
This morning it was higher because there was more time left in the day.
And when he looks at some of his other calculations that are based more on the one-day expected move, look at the difference. You've got the zero-day expected move, $31 right now, and at 9 a.m. maybe it was 45 or 40 something.
Yeah, it's 44.
Yeah.
Right.
So the one-day expected move is 70. So if some of these calculations he's putting together are using mostly the one-day, it's giving a much wider expected move, and you could see that on the charts just by looking at the win rate. So if you look at the win rate and you see something with a 99% win rate, you're getting the least amount of collection on those.
And same with that VIX 1D expected.
And that's going to be the furthest from where the SPX is trading. So if you're wondering, like, how far are these? Look at the win percent. The highest win percent is the furthest short option, the lowest delta.
And Jacob said that in the takeaways. It's the lowest delta. You are taking a much less profit, and your drawdown is much less. Look at that. The VIX 1-day and the VIX expected have the least amount of drawdowns for this 10%.
Now I'm going to move on. So this is taking 10%, and you can see across the board, all winners. Does anything jump out at you? That VIX expected of $15, to me, that's not enough. I don't like that risk reward. I don't like that average P&L.
So what jumps out at me? What jumps out at me is keeping it simple. Like this study to me shows, I love it. I love the numbers. I like everything about it. But trading for as long as we have, we know that SPX calculation and this platform actually shows what the expected move is, and it's moving as the volatility changes and time elapses.
But again, I think so that brown bar, and we see that the brown bar is the same expected move as that number on the side, and that is one version of the expected move. Jacob is doing a deep dive into other versions of expected move. If people want to dive deeper, you certainly can.
I love it.
Next week, I'm going to ask Jacob to keep things simple and just use the brown bar. So here we go to taking 25%, and you can see the jump. We go from 40, 30 to 70,
almost double,
80, 70, 35, 44. So I like taking a little bit more of a percentage.
But take a look at your VIX expected. You're still only getting $13 for this, even though you've got that high percentage. And he said that in the takeaways, you can't go too far. There has to be a happy balance between as far out of the money as you can go, but not too far out of the money that you're taking in a decent collection.
Right. And honestly, that VIX expected is moving. You're going so far beyond that daily expected move where you're going to sell at $20 wide and get very, very little if you're winning 99% of the time and you're keeping 25% of your credit and your only average P&L is only $13. I mean, you have very few losses in there.
Very few losses, but it adds up too.
So here, but you look at the IV expected, and that's closer, according to Jacob, closer to the true expected move of the 0 day.
Right.
And that makes sense. That's what I did today. I sold it for $3.90, and in an hour I took it off for 40%.
All right, let's look at the 50% because just to kind of drive home this point as well. So, and Jacob had said in his takeaways that when you do go farther out, which are farther than the at the monies, you have to take a bigger percentage. And that's true in these numbers.
Right, and you can see that with the higher win percent, it'll perform better at the 50% level. When you have the lower win percent, those perform better at the 25%. So take them off at a 25% profit target instead of a 50% profit target.
I agree.
So Jacob got a little bit into the weeds with this study, but there are definitely some good takeaways.
There are some great takeaways. I think the nearer you are to the at-the-monies, the less of a percentage you can take.
Yes.
That's and this is my layman's term. The nearer you are to the at-the-monies, the less of a percentage you can take. The more room you give yourself, you have to up your percentage of profits.
Right. And I like that because you could see here, the 82% win rate or 93% win rate or 89% win rate, those lowest win rates performed better. I think we got 45, 57, 61 or 77, 67, 81 perform much better when you're taking in 25% of your max profit target versus 50%.
I love it.
So my takeaway there is, I know we like to collect more and risk less, but maybe that means we need to take it off for 25, 35% rather than wait for 50%.
I agree. Let's put the takeaways up there one more time, just for people to see visually. We'll leave it up there. They can take a screenshot, anything of that nature. But if you like this video or want more of it, make sure you hit that little thumbs up button that's underneath me.
Like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want more videos like this, you can find us on tastylive.com or on the Tasty Live YouTube channel.